Good evening, everyone. Just a little bit of a market recap here. And the markets were somewhat uneventful, but a choppy trading session nonetheless. And perhaps one of the more interesting areas of the market was what was going on with those cannabis companies and those stocks, which were surging today. I'll get to that in just 1 second. But for those who care about the broader markets, let's start there. The Dow did close at a record high, the S&P, NASDAQ, as well as the Russell 2000, all in negative territory, but ever so slightly. Again, no major moves, and the markets were really trading either side of unchanged throughout the entire day. TSX did find some strength, ending in positive territory. When we think about what the next move might be, the path of least resistance has been and continues to seem to be to the upside, really driven by fiscal policy expectations in terms of a large stimulus bill. And it seems as though the Wall Street analysts right now are expecting $1.5 trillion in terms of the size of the package. That obviously would be positive in terms of supporting the growth, getting to the other side of the pandemic. Also, of course, earnings have been very stable. The guidance from the company managements has been maybe a little bit light versus expectations, but nonetheless, the results have been pretty good. Another key driver to the upside has been vaccine optimism. We've talked a lot about that, but day after day, we do get new news on that front. And interesting, out of the UK, their data did suggest that 1 dose of the Pfizer BioNTech does have 2/3 protection. So obviously a positive there as we continue to disperse the lack of supply of these vaccines across a broader populace. So that's another aspect to keep in mind. Of course, there's concerns surrounding the variants as well. And also, when we think about inflation, that was probably the other key interesting area of the market today, in addition to those cannabis companies. But the inflation picture was somewhat muted, and that's why you saw a little bit of a pause in the markets and that reflation trade on the back of that. Financials in the United States as well as in Canada were flat. Because we've been looking for inflation in a higher interest rate environment to help some of the financial companies earn a little bit more from their own business models. Inflation, CPI came in at 1.4%. That was less. That's on a year-over-year basis. That's less than the 1.5% expected. But when you dig underneath the surface, it's quite interesting because the reason for the weakness was really due to airfares, which were down over 3%, hotels down by about 2%, recreation admissions down by over 5%. So those are all perhaps transitory as we think about getting to the other side of the pandemic. Importantly as well, we did hear from Fed Chair Jerome Powell continuing to reiterate his view from the U.S. Federal Reserve that they're going to keep these rates lower for longer. They do not have a fear about overheating, overstimulating the economy. In other words, inflation is not an issue in their minds. Again, that is a big debate that's going on, and I will have an interview for you on that this week. Looking forward to that. The key leading sector in the market continues to be energy. Here in Canada, I look at the XEG. In the States, I look at the XLE. Both of those are up by about 2%. They're ETFs. Energy up by about 4% this week alone. It's only, what day is it? It's only Wednesday. So a big move there. Let's just get to the pot stocks here, which did pop today. The Reddit community, the Wall Street Bets community, continuing to move into this territory. Of course, their previous look was on GameStop, AMC, as well as the cryptocurrencies. Well, now they do believe that there should be some interest in some of these cannabis companies, and of course, the fundamental call on that would be the decriminalization that is expected out of the Biden administration. That would allow more institutions to go in and own these stocks. That means money flow. Money flow is always important, not just the fundamentals or the valuations, but you got to keep your eyes on the money flow. So you had some stocks like MedMen up by 35% today. It's a $1.65 stock. WebMD, it trades on the Canadian Venture. That was up by 34%. Aurora up by 21%. Tilray up by 50%. So huge moves in some of these cannabis companies. That was the taste du jour, that is for sure. I think that does it for everything that we really kind of saw in the markets. Of course, we had a couple of earnings after hours. But that we'll see how they play out tomorrow. That's Uber, which did not look as good as Lyft, which reported yesterday that stock was higher. Twitter was also higher today. We talked about both of those stocks yesterday. So we'll see what comes out with initial jobless claims tomorrow morning at 8:30. That's going to be really important to watch. And specifically, it's the continuing claims that you want to see. You want to see that number decline. That does it for me. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.